Hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Another episode of The Other Side of the Studio. I am Lauren McLaughlin. So happy to be here. So our topic today is adaptability and flexibility. So an example is that I had a guest and she had to cancel given a personal situation that for her was devastating and she needed to cancel. So I had to adapt. And adapting is me coming on solo and being here and sharing the presentation on my own, which is perfectly fine. So we are going to go deep diving into adaptability and flexibility. I'm going to adapt with my messages pinging, so just bear with the sounds that we will adapt. We are going to be flexible here. So adaptability, let me pull up here. That is going to be the quality of being able to adjust to new conditions. So I'm going to ask everyone here, I did this with my coaching group yesterday, is asking how on a scale of 1 to 10, how adaptable do you feel like you are? How adaptable? If you are presented with a quick change, how adaptable would you feel that you would approach that situation? Are you able to quickly adjust and stay grounded, even if something very swiftly comes rolling in that throws you a curveball and you go, whoa, okay, now what do I do? How adaptable are you? So what I have found is that most of us, is that we allow our emotions to come in and take over the driver's seat. And as I was telling my group yesterday, if you allow emotions to 100% take that wheel of life, then very, very likely it is going to turn out disastrous. It's going to be far worse than whatever the situation being presented to you at that moment if you allow the emotions to come in and 100% take over. Emotions are okay. So I went real heavy yesterday on the front end, and I'm going to go heavy again today. So I shared, the situation. What if you are diagnosed with a terminal illness, or you know of a loved one that has just been diagnosed with a terminal illness? Maybe a child, a parent, spouse, partner. What if you have, you're in an accident? Just taking a situation that is traumatic and that no doubt throws a huge curveball. If we don't have the skill set to be able to step out of ourselves and to look at the situation from a different perspective, kind of the third person perspective, where you step out of yourself when you are shared that you have this diagnosis, or someone in your family, a personal family member, has been diagnosed with something terminal. And if you're not able to step out of yourself and all of the noise of the emotions, likely it's going to make the situation worse. So I think all of you know that have been listening is that I know that we have the ability to become our own medicine. I'm not going to say I believe. I truly know that we have the ability to become our own medicine. We also have the ability to heal ourselves. What that looks like, whatever that outcome is. But when we are able to step outside of ourselves and look at the situation from that third person or just a different perspective, you're removing those emotions. You're removing them. You're pushing them aside just a little bit. Now, emotions are good. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel sad, angry. Those are all okay. But if they are 100% taking over, then that's not okay. And that is when, again, everything starts to crumble and fall apart. So adaptability, just being able to, from my perspective, is that you step outside of yourself. It's one of the exercises that we do here at Conscious Strong in the introspective work that we do through writing. And the third day of writing is that ability to be able to step outside of yourself and look at yourself from a different perspective. Have a conversation with yourself. If you did have someone that was on the other side, a loved one that was just diagnosed with a terminal illness, more often you're not going to fall apart. You're going to approach with, with sympathy. You're going to, wrap your arms around the person. Instead of it being yourself, usually we will get angry or sad or frustrated whenever something happens to us. And so it is those moments that I'm asking if you can just step outside and take another view in, and then give yourself some love. More often than not, that is going to make the outcome so much greater. If it's something terminal, it's going to make that process so much easier than being in 100% emotion driven vehicle. If you allow yourself to step outside of the self, you're going to find the situation run more smoothly. Okay, so that's adaptability from my perspective. So I was sharing a story yesterday that it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was in a car accident. It wasn't my fault. I was driving down the road. I just dropped my son off. And as I was approaching the hill, I noticed a car in this little gravel parking lot to the side. And as I started to approaching, I went, okay, I don't think this person sees me, or they are distracted and they are not going to stop. So the impact happened right as I was just, coming right up on the hill, and he hit me pretty darn hard. So it sent me into just the fight flight. Oh no, something bad is happening. So I went right into the woods. And as I was in the woods, and I didn't realize it until well after the situation, is that I actually did step out of myself in that moment. And I was saying, oh, this is not going to be good. You have to take the driver's seat. You're going to have to go through these woods and navigate. Otherwise, something really bad is going to happen. You're going to run into the tree and it's going to be disastrous. But I had almost like myself, another person, telling me how to navigate through the woods. And no lie, seriously, I just kind of flying out of the woods, and I just landed right back in the middle of the street and the road. And I just sat there really stunned, going, okay, am I okay? Is everything going to be, is my heart beating? Am I still here? It truly was almost like an outer body experience. A gentleman came up to the window and he just looked at me, firstly kind of stared to make sure I was okay. Then he asked me, are you okay? And I said, I think I am okay. I think. My car was totaled. He said, well, after a moment, he paused. He said, well, now that I know that you're okay, this kind of made me cry. He said, I have to tell you, that was the most amazing navigating experience I think I've ever witnessed in my life. I don't know how you did that. And I was like, seriously? I was like, I didn't either. So the next day, went back with my husband to take a look at what I had to navigate through. And I have to tell you, it shocked me. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Did I really get my car through that? How did I end up navigating and getting out of the situation? I can tell you it was because I really have been practicing this for years. I was able to step outside of myself in that situation, because had I let my emotions take over that situation, I may not be here today. I may have been stuck in that tree, but it would not have turned out as well as it did. I came out unscathed. My car was totaled, but otherwise I was fine. And it was truly because I was able to step outside of myself. So I adapted to the situation, even though it was something very traumatic. So I'm just asking all of you listening is just to take a moment and really, rate God, like 1 to 10, how adaptable are you? And then practice the skill of being able to step outside of yourself in situations. Start light. So I went real heavy here on the front end with terminal illnesses and serious accidents. But you can practice this with any situation that challenges us. And it's in your workplace, in your personal life, with your children. It really works if you're able to step outside the moment you feel those emotions wanting to kick in gear. Trust me, I am a highly, highly emotional person. So it really was my my lifesaver of developing the skill to be able to adapt and step outside of my emotions. So that's adaptability. Then we talked about flexibility. So flexibility is the quality of bending easily without breaking. Now you can think of this from a physical sense. You can also apply this to emotions as well, to your emotional self, to your mental side. If you can be more flexible, you are going to likely have a much better flow state in life. That's a guarantee. Because if you're too rigid, and I've seen this quite often, let's say a type A personality who's extreme type A really has a difficult time with flexibility, both mentally and physically. I have worked with many over my years. And this is the first exercise or skill that we work on. How can you be flexible in the situation? And more often, if we can apply it to the physical side, which we're going to be going over tomorrow. So if anyone does want to join the movement class tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time, this is what we're going to be applying to the body movement, to the movement side. So learning how to be more flexible in those moments of, again, that are difficult, you are going to have a far better outcome, whether it is in a conversation, whether it is working on a project at work, whether it is those of you who are in sales. Your sales will go through much more positively than if you are really approaching it from this rigid position, tight. If you're tightly wound, you're going to go skyrocketing to the moon and back. If you are more flexible, you're going to be able to maneuver through and bend with the wind and the waves of the conversation, or with whatever situation is blowing your way. You're going to be able to adapt. So adaptability and flexibility. Also, flexibility is the willingness to change or compromise. And again, that's what we were just talking about in terms of a situation, maybe at work, or a conversation with your partner or your children. Being able to change and compromise without having resentment, anger, or allowing those emotions to take over, the outcome is going to be much more fluid. And therefore, your will of life, your wheelhouse, is going to be flowing much more smoothly. So adaptability, flexibility. I just ask all of you today, that's our theme of this week here at Conscious Strong and the other side of the studio, is take a deep dive in and assess yourself. How adaptable and how flexible are you? And practice some of these exercises. It's a skill. It is a muscle. It is something that you have to work on. I have to work on it daily, because I am a highly emotional being. Every day I have to step outside and say, okay, Lauren, wait a minute. So that is really the first exercise. Is any situation that you're presented with that challenges you, is stop. Don't react. Stop. Stop and assess the situation. Stop and assess, step outside of yourself, ask yourself, the self in front of you, have a dialogue with yourself, talk to yourself, go to the mirror. This may sound weird, it may sound crazy, not to everybody, I know, but have a conversation with yourself in the mirror. Once you start to develop that skill and get over the awkwardness of it, I promise you it is going to be a skill that will save you. Seriously, it will save you. It may even impact your health. It may reverse some disease. It may build a better bond with your partner, your children, your colleagues. It may then impact how productive are you at work? How are you able to have that conversation in a sales conversation work out in your favor? I can tell you, if you're going at it from a rigid angle, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So there is today's topic of the other side of the studio. As I said, I had to adapt. because my guest who was going to present had to reschedule given a personal situation that came up very quickly. And so she has rescheduled. It's all good. All is fine. So I had this opportunity to come and have this conversation with all of you. And I want to appreciate all of you who have come in and listened today. And again, go out, test yourself. How adaptable are you? How flexible are you in day-to-day living? And then bring it to the mat tomorrow with me. I would love to have as many people join tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It is going to be all about movement. How can you adapt? And what does that look like? Okay, so you may say adaptability in your movement. It's a pretty big one. If you can start to adapt to different modalities, once again, you will do so much more for your brain, so much more for your body and your health if you're able to adapt. I will touch on that a little bit more in depth. But if you're stuck in a routine and you do the exact same thing every time you move or you exercise, you're really not doing your mind and body a whole lot of good in the long run. If you're able to adapt to new modalities, experience, the willingness to try new things, that is going to have a far better impact. I'm going to just bring that down. Much more of an impact on your body and your mind than if you're doing the exact same routine every time you move your body. Then flexibility. That is the key to longevity. Flexibility. If you are rigid and tight in your body, that is shortening your life. If you become more flexible, Joseph Pilates' quote is one of my favorites, is if you're 30 and your spine is inflexible, you're old. If you are, he used 70, and I'm going to bump that up to 90. If you're 90 and you have a flexible spine, you are young. And that is the truth. The more flexible you are in your body, the healthier you're going to be, the longer you are going to live, the better your brain is going to function. So tomorrow is going to be movements, all about adaptability and flexibility, and how do you apply that to this physical self? So practice it in everyday life. Join us tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, for a movement session. It's an hour long that will be covering adaptability and flexibility in the body and the mind. Thanks for joining the other side of the studio, and make it a beautiful day. And we'll see you next week with a new guest. Stay tuned. Very exciting. And see you soon. Ciao.